July 2nd, 1944, 06:15 hours. Outside St. Lo, Normandy. Obergefreiter Klaus Weber crouched in his foxhole behind an ancient hedgerow and smiled to himself. The rumble of American Shermans was getting closer, a low growl rolling through the damp morning air. He'd heard it every day for a week. It always ended the same way. The hedges, Bocage the locals called it, had been here longer than his entire regiment. Earthen walls 4 to 6 feet high, roots knotted into stone, topped with centuries-old trees and thorns so thick a man could barely force himself through. They made perfect walls. Weber's company had wired the gaps, sighted MG-42s on the farm lanes, registered mortars on every visible opening. Tanks could only come through those cuts. Tanks that came through those cuts died. He heard the first Sherman grind to a halt on the far side of his hedge, right on schedule. "Wieder das Gleiche," one of his men muttered. Same thing again. But the same thing didn't happen. Instead of the familiar whine of a tank turning to nose into the lane, the engine note climbed. Metal screamed against earth. Weber felt the ground under his boots shudder. The hedge in front of him, his wall, his shield, exploded inward in a shower of black dirt and ripped roots as a Sherman burst straight through it like a plow through rotten thatch. Welded steel prongs, ugly crooked tusks made from cut-up beach obstacles, bit into the bank and lifted, peeling the bocage open. The tank didn't pause. It lurched into his field, bowgun already spitting. Back on the American side, 2 days earlier, Staff Sergeant Eli Cooper from Iowa had stood in a Norman farmyard and stared at the same kind of hedge, hands on his hips, thinking about plows and corn rows. "Can't go over it, can't go around it," he'd said. "So we go through it, like breaking sod." The officers called it a stupid farmer trick, welding scrappers on teeth onto the front of perfectly good Shermans. It wasn't in any manual. German engineers had sworn their hedgerows were tank-proof. On July 2nd, Weber watched his perfect geometry turn to chaos as more Shermans punched through at angles no range card covered. By the end of the month, hundreds of American tanks in Normandy wore those ugly iron tusks. The bocage hadn't changed in centuries. One farm boy's idea had just made it obsolete in a night.